So, I want to offer you a thought you have never heard before. Or maybe you have, but you just don't like it. And that thought is you are supposed to experience stress. Not because something is wrong with you, not because you're failing, but because you're human. And stress is actually part of how your body protects you, how it motivates you and guides you. But most of us, we were never taught the difference between helpful stress and harmful stress. And that misunderstanding is exactly what keeps so many high achieving women stuck in overwhelm and burnout. So, in this episode, we're going to talk about why stress exists in the first place and why your relationship with it matters more than you think. Welcome to Burnout-Free Me, your success and well-being podcast. I'm Dr. Amy Grimm, and I am so glad you're here. Let's go from burnout to breakthrough together. Hi, friend. Welcome to Burnout-Free Me. This is episode number 136. Today, we're going to talk about something that I think most high-achieving women misunderstand. This is something that I used to misunderstand for years. And honestly, it's something that might be shaping your entire relationship with your career and with your sense of self-worth without you even realizing it. And we're talking about stress. More specifically, why stress is actually important, why your stressful moments matter, why they're not a sign that something has gone wrong in your life or that you're failing, but instead they're a built-in part of being a human, of being a high achiever, of having high responsibility, and still building a life that feels meaningful rather than stagnant. And most of us are just walking around with this unspoken belief that if we were doing life right, we would not feel stressed. We believe that if we were more competent, more organized, more healed, more self-developed, more balanced, then stress would magically disappear. We think stress means that we've messed up, or that we've picked the wrong career, or that we're not cut out for the job we trained our entire adult lives for. And we assume that everybody else handles things better, and that we're the only ones feeling like we're internally sprinting every single day just to stay upright. But stress, it is not a sign that something is wrong with you. Stress is biology. Stress is information. And stress, in the right amounts, is actually good for you. It's essential, even. And we need to talk about that because the story you've been telling yourself about stress is probably the thing keeping you stuck in overwhelm, burnout, and even self-doubt. So here's the first big thing to understand. Stress is not the event, and stress is not caused by the event. This is very, very important to understand. You do not feel stress because of the angry client. You do not feel stress because of the tight deadline. You don't feel stress because you're in a traffic jam. Those things are stressors. The stress you feel is the internal response your body has based on your thoughts, your past experiences, your emotional state, and the physiological reactions happening inside of you. Things like adrenaline and cortisol, and the way your nervous system perceives threat. This is why two people can sit in the same traffic jam and have completely different experiences. One person is melting down thinking, this is the worst, I'm going to be late, I hate this. And the other person is like, cool, time to blast my favorite tunes and treat this car like a karaoke booth. It's the exact same situation, but a completely different stress response, and therefore a completely different experience. And once you understand that stress is internal, it's not the external thing, it's internal. You also get to understand that your internal response can be changed. It can be shaped and it can be regulated. So now I want to zoom out for a moment because the whole point of this episode is to answer the question, why is stress important? And the answer might surprise you. It's because you actually need it. Without stress, you'd feel bored out of your mind. You'd be stagnant, disengaged, unmotivated. Your brain needs challenge the same way your muscles need resistance. Without that push, you don't grow, you don't adapt, you don't strengthen, you don't live with purpose. So the goal is not to eliminate stress. The goal is to understand which stress is helping you and which stress is hurting you. And this is where nervous system science becomes such a game changer. Because when you think about your day, your body is constantly moving through different states. There's your regulated state where you feel calm and grounded and capable. There's your stress state, your fight, flight, or freeze, which is where stress exists and it can be good or bad. You see, a moderate amount of stress actually sharpens your performance. There's this whole thing about stress being a problem, but in reality, a little to a moderate amount of stress actually keeps you focused and energized, and it helps you function on a daily basis. Whereas too much stress, that is what pushes you over the edge into overwhelm. And then there's that shutdown state, which can follow the collapse, the burnout, the foggy brain, when you're just exhausted and you're in that place where your body goes when stress has been unmanaged for way too long. You just cannot continue. So we actually want stress in this middle zone, right? A little to moderate amount of stress, the kind that activates you, motivates you, and gets you moving without overwhelming your system. So you can think about a time when you were preparing for something important. Maybe it was a presentation, you were studying for an exam, you had a job interview, there's a new procedure or surgery that you were going to do. The stress you felt didn't actually harm you when you were preparing for that. It helped you focus. And that's the kind of good stress, eustress. Eustress is the Greek word for good stress. And that's the kind of stress that helps you grow. But harmful stress, that's what we call distress. And that feels completely different. That's the tension in your jaw, the heaviness in your chest, that dread you wake up with, the racing thoughts that keep you up at night. It's not the stressor, the event itself, that determines whether you're in eustress or distress. It's your nervous system state, your mindset, and your perception of the situation. So, let me give you some examples of how stress can actually act as a protective mechanism rather than just pure chaos and destruction. So, one example could be you are the quintessential, dependable veterinarian, the one who shows up early, stays late, never says no, and carries the entire hospital on your back. And one Tuesday afternoon, after dealing with 3 emergencies, a double-booked schedule, and a tech who called out sick, you walk into an exam room and a client snaps at you for running late and for being too slow and wasting her time. And your eyes, they instantly fill with tears. And not the cute single tear that you see in the Disney movies that just trails down the side of your cheek. I'm talking about that full body, hot face, can't hold it back kind of crying. You leave the room, you go into the treatment area, close the door, and absolutely break down. That moment that you've been trying to outrun for years has finally caught up with you. But here's the thing. That breakdown doesn't mean that you're weak. It's not a failure. It is a sign that something needs to change. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're not cut out for veterinary medicine. This is your nervous system protecting you. It's the biological equivalent of your body saying, enough. This is not sustainable. Pay attention. That stress, that's a wake-up call. And because of that moment, maybe you went to your leadership team and you asked for real changes to your schedule, like no more double booking, protecting your time for record keeping, taking real lunch breaks, and finally starting to set boundaries around staying late. And with that conversation, maybe things start to turn out differently. Maybe they just assumed that you liked the pace or that you could handle it and nothing was wrong. Neither of those things was true. And the stress, it's not that it broke you, it was protecting you from breaking. It was redirecting you. It's showing you the truth that you've been avoiding. And that is such an important piece of awareness, to take that and do something with it instead of continuing to push through. Now, another example could be that maybe you are a woman in a high pressure field like financial advising, right? Where the clients are relying on you with all of their investments. You're also a wife and a mom, and you're the glue that holds everything together. And on paper, you're thriving. You're hitting big numbers, you have leadership responsibilities, a tight ship, beautifully run household. But every morning, you wake up with that quiet sense of dread. Not panic, just that sinking heaviness in your chest. Your jaw is always clenched, your mind is buzzing, and you keep telling yourself, this is normal. Everyone I know is tired. Everyone seems overwhelmed. Everyone is just busy. Until one morning, as you're helping your daughter get ready for school, she looks at you and just asks you innocently, Mom, why are you always so mad in the mornings? She's not accusing you, she's really just curious. And that one question pierces right through that story you've been telling yourself. That tiny moment of emotional discomfort becomes a catalyst for change. And you realize that you're not just tired, you're actually misaligned. You're depleted, you're caring about everyone else while abandoning yourself. And that kind of stress pushes you to get support. Maybe you begin coaching, you reconnect with therapy, and you finally start to examine a lot of the shoulds that have been shaping your career. And within months, you can redesign your schedule. You can start delegating tasks that maybe you've been holding on to for years, maybe even exploring a new professional direction that aligns with your values instead of your guilt. Stress didn't destroy your life here either. It illuminated the parts of your life that were begging for attention. And this is why stress is important. Stress lets you know when something is off. Stress also motivates you. Stress clarifies what matters. Stress pushes you toward change when you've been tolerating something for too long. And stress gives you energy, focus, momentum, and purpose. And it also plays this crucial role in helping you build resilience and capacity. So the real goal isn't about living a stress-free life. If you had no stress, you'd be bored, disengaged, and probably deeply unfulfilled. We need stress in the same way we need friction to walk. We literally cannot move forward without it. And the real goal is understanding your own patterns, becoming self-aware, becoming aware of what happens in your body, expanding your capacity so you can experience challenge without collapsing into distress. And of course, learning how to support your nervous system so you can move through life feeling grounded and capable, even when things get chaotic. This is also why coaching is so powerful, because when you're stuck in your own patterns, it's almost impossible to see the difference between helpful stress and harmful stress. And it's so hard to recognize the stories you're telling yourself that make everything feel heavier than it actually is. And it's even harder to change those stories alone. But when you have someone guiding you, somebody who understands the nervous system, who knows what it's like to be a high achiever, who has lived the burnout cycle and climbed her way out, you suddenly have the structure, the support, and the clarity that you need to build a life that feels sustainable. Not perfect, not stress-free, sustainable, and enjoyable. So if you're listening to this and thinking, ugh, this is me. This is exactly what I've been feeling, and I don't want to stay here, then I want to invite you to take the next step. You don't have to keep running on fumes. You don't have to keep white-knuckling your way through the day. And you don't have to keep believing the lie that stress means that you're failing. If you want help learning how to work with your stress instead of against it, I would love to talk with you. Please book a consultation call with me and let's see whether my one-on-one coaching is the right fit for you. Because you deserve a life that feels as good on the inside as it looks on the outside. And learning how to interpret manage and use stress is one of the most powerful steps in getting there. Okay, my friends, I'll see you all next week.